Which one do you pour the beer in?
I would just pour in this glass right here.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you? What would you use?
I would use the can or the bottle.
That's the worst way to drink it. Hi everybody, welcome back to another edition of Paris Perfect. Today we're going to do a little wine education, and specifically we're going to do some glassware. People are very confused.
Whoa, what are you doing?
I'm doing a wine education thing on glassware.
Why are you doing it by yourself if it's Paris Perfect? It's not solo perfect.
I'm pairing the wine with the glass.
Yeah, but you're doing it solo.
I am doing it solo. Would you like to help?
I would like to be educated.
Okay, all right. Well, fair enough.
I'm just like everybody else. I don't know anything about this.
Fair enough.
I just grab a glass and drink out of it.
All right.
But most of the times it's red.
This is true.
That's not a glass, it's a cup.
I've hung out with you before.
Yeah.
You don't really even care what vessel it's in, as long as it's in this vessel.
That's it. That's all that matters.
All right, so we're going to start at the top, everyone. Glassware. You only need about 4 different styles of glassware, and I'm going to go through those 4 different styles. These are the 4 that I have in my house. You know, yes, they make a unique glass for Gruner Veltliner and tequila and all these different things. I know when I worked at the French Laundry, we had about 17 different glasses, but you don't need 17 different glasses at home. You need like 3 or 4.
You need one good one.
So we're going to start with this one. This is your just very general, all-purpose white wine glass. I use it for unoaked white wines, so Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Grigio, Albarino, Riesling, things of that nature. This is a perfect glass for that. This is an example of a Sauvignon Blanc that would go well in that glass. Now you can do champagne or sparkling in this glass. I definitely prefer this glass as opposed to a flute. I hate those.
So the champagne flutes that people like to drink.
No, they're really skinny. They don't allow you to really smell the wine at all. That glass initially was designed to keep in the bubbles somehow with a smaller surface area exposed to the air. That's BS, right? I've never had a glass of champagne go flat in my hand.
People know that's not just Chris's take on it. Most sommeliers.
More and more you won't find them, and honestly, I have no problems if someone drops flutes at a restaurant. I kindly ask for a white wine glass, and they're pretty easy to accommodate it. This, however, is a champagne glass. You can see it's just slightly modified. It's a touch taller. This fat part allows for aromatics to build when you're swirling it, but you can see these glasses are pretty similar. So if you were to only have 3 glasses, you toss this one. Next, we move into, this is called a Burgundy stem, and I use this for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay exclusively, so it can go with both red or white wines, kind of that crossover glass. You might say, well then this is the only glass that I need, right? And it's not true, because bigger, thicker skinned varieties like Cabernet Sauvignon and Brunello and Bordeaux, they require a glass more like this, right? So there is a big difference between these glasses.
And the lighter white wine or champagne won't go in this, correct?
I have done richer champagnes in a Pinot Noir glass like this. I really like it for like robust style, white Burgundies, California Chardonnays, things of that nature. Also look for Pinot Noir and other thin-skinned varietals. Nebbiolo goes really good in this glass, and so does Grenache. So think of the wines of the Southern Rhone.
One thing that wine glasses have a big opening with champagne, when I smell it makes me like...
Right, it's like the little fizzy, the gas is like, it does. That can happen.
So keep that in mind, everybody.
And then last but not least, this is the glass, I would actually say if you were to only have one glass, this would be the glass, right? Because it can handle white wines, it can handle champagne, it can handle red wines. So it can handle a lot of them. I still would recommend some of the other glasses, but this is a classic Bordeaux glass made for Cabernet and other thick-skinned varietals. Think of Malbec, think of Brunello de Montalcino.
I have one question. Why are all the stemware called after French wines?
It's
why is it all French?
The birthplace of wine.
Is that a fact?
It is for me.
Okay. I'm just wondering.
France is the homeland of wine. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So while we're talking about glassware, another important piece that you should consider having at home is a decanter. You don't need multiple decanters. Honestly, just one is good to go. You can get a decanter that's shaped like this. This is one of my favorites. It doesn't take up a lot of space on a table. You can get these anywhere. I think Crate & Barrel has a version very similar to this for like $10. So they're not expensive. This is a Riedel, so it's a little bit more than $10, but I like this one. And I also like ones for white wine because I decant almost anything, red or white, and I highly encourage that. I'll even decant some really fizzy champagnes because they're almost painful on the palate. And this is good for that because it takes up even less table space. You can throw it in the door in your fridge. And you know, if you're decanting something that's just out of the cellar but it needs to get colder, boom, it works really well in that regard. These are my two kind of go-tos.
You don't like my decanter?
No, I'm gonna go off in your decanter. So this decanter, while it looks really pretty and regal on a table,
and then you can like really swirl it. And
yeah, you can really swirl it. If you need this much surface area to open up your wine, you're probably drinking your wine too young. The problem with these, they're aesthetically pleasing, but to pour the first half of the bottle is really easy. To pour the second half, this is a very unnatural way to put your arm.
But one thing is when I throw a change up, I have to turn over that wrist, so that it is almost like throwing a change up.
He thinks he's a pitcher all of a sudden. There is one trick around this, and it's just by grabbing it upside down. If you grab it like this, more like you would hold a marker or a pencil, you have a lot more dexterity, meaning control over where it's gonna go, and you can easily pour it to the end. So the common question is, why use a decanter, right? And I use a decanter for two main reasons. One of them, it's to get air on young red wines, right? You put it in a decanter, you swirl it around, you let it sit for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how big the wine is. But that's kind of one of the main uses of having a decanter. The second use is for older wines, really older wines that have sediment in the bottom. It's kind of tasteless, but it's, no one wants to have like sand rolling around when they're drinking wine.
It's like the grape skins, right?
You know what? You are right. It is the grape skins. So the color of a red wine is water, about 85%, and the rest of it is small pieces of the coloring agents that came from the maceration of the wine with the skins. So yes, over like 100 or 150 years, this red wine will lose probably 70% of its color. As the oxygen molecules bind with some of the tannin molecules in here and polymerize, and they create these longer chains of tannins.
Science class.
It gets too heavy and it falls. So over time, color just falls and falls and falls out of the wine. But midway there, because we wouldn't want to wait 150 years to drink a wine, you're gonna have, I call it junk in the trunk, right? You have this kind of muddy stuff in the bottom. For old bottles of wine, I like to recommend people stand them up for 3-4 days, maybe even a week, and that way it's easier to decant because all of that sediment would fall to the bottom of the bottle, and then it's a lot easier. If you have a cellar and you've been aging the wines like this, as you should, and you want to drink that wine like right now, and you find it in this position, then you're going to have to carefully treat it, keep it on its angle as best you can, open it on its angle, and then decant this way so you're not disturbing the wine too much. Just to get it moving, get it air, get it breathing.
One thing you've always told me is to double decant. Can you explain double decanting to people?
Yeah, I do like to double decant, especially if I'm in like a situation where I've only got one decanter, right? But I need to decant several bottles of wine. Double decanting is decanting into the decanter. If you do have sediment or anything like that, just go ahead and rinse it out really good. Get it as dry as possible without heating it up. And then you take a funnel. This one's great. It's got a little screen so you can use it kind of both directions. And then I use a funnel, put the wine back in the bottle, and now it's been decanted and I can move on. And with my one trusty decanter, I can go decant other wines. Did you learn anything today?
Yes, I learned that my red Solo cup works.
Your red Solo cup doesn't work. And the reason why
I agree. I've had wine in different glasses and it does taste better in the right glass.
I will say that sometimes you see those really big glasses and I think our brain goes, oh, that's an even better glass. I think when the glasses get really big, unless that wine is a very big wine as well, it's going to get lost.
What about crystal versus glass versus plastic?
Plastic, I think, is probably the worst vessel for wine. I can always smell the plastic when I drink wine out of a plastic cup. Always. Not for margaritas, but I can for wine. I don't know what the deal is for it. I think, they're depending on how much lead is in your crystal is a personal preference. These are Riedel Venom glasses. They are inexpensive. There are several knockoffs of this shape of glass that get down to, like I said, about $10 a glass. You don't need a ton of them, but if you entertain and have people over, I'd say have a dozen of these guys, a dozen of these guys, and a dozen of these guys. If you drink bubbles on the regular like I do, add in this last little glass here, and you'll be good to go.
Which one do you pour the beer in?
Depends on the beer, but more than likely, like a regular Pilsner beer, like a Calidad,
Yeah.
I would just pour in this glass right here.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you? What would you use?
I would use the can or the bottle.
That's the worst way to drink it. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Paris Perfect. Make sure to like and subscribe below.
Hopefully you learned something today. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. Cheers.